Marriage is not a casual engagement. Marriage is a covenant. But many people have come to a place of trying to involve themselves in this institution without committing to the reality of it. Because the intentions behind it, it's all about something different. Some are getting married because they want children. Some are getting married because they are getting late. And some are getting married because they want to be a citizen of a certain country. To them, it is a casual ideal or ordeal. To them, it's a presentation of just, how they feel. And they really want to express, so much that is not in accordance to the will of God. But marriage is a covenant. And God designed marriage to be a place whereby two shall become one. That your wife becomes your companion. Your partner becomes your way of becoming and belonging. In the book of Malachi chapter 2, verse 14, yet she is your companion and your wife by covenant. So marriage is a covenant and a commitment. It is what God designed from beginning. When we go into the book of Genesis, we get to find what God did. The whole story, we understand it. But there's one verse in the book of Genesis chapter 2 that I love so much. And God presented Eve before Adam. Other versions say, and God brought Eve. So that very word brought in Hebrew simply means God displayed. I want to make you understand. God did not marry Adam and Eve, but God introduced Adam and Eve to an institution that will enable them to walk through a time of life so that they can be able now to fulfill the will of God. So the word brought means to display. So what God did, displayed Eve to Adam. And it was upon Adam to make a decision if he's going to accept what God presented to him. And Adam said, now this is bone of my bones, flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman. Now we get to see the decision that Adam made. It was a decision that was supposed to be eternal. A decision that was supposed now to bring the fulfillment of what God intended for marriage. But why are we having people getting divorced, separated every other time? It is because people don't get it right in accordance to the will of God. The intentions behind marriage become null and void because people are not willing to seek the truth concerning this institution. God's design was that you and I, if we really want to get married, we can do it in the confines of the will of God. So marriage is not merely romance. It is covenantal alignment before God. A covenant survives seasons than convenience cannot. So in the book of Matthew chapter 19 and verse 6, the Bible tells us, so they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no one separate. So when two people come together and they make a decision that they want to be a part of marriage, they involve God in that reality because God introduced the both of you to be a part of each other. Then it becomes a reality that breaks through it all. And that is why people are divorcing because they do not understand this. Right now in our generation, people are saying, what is marriage? Marriage only benefits women. Marriage only benefits men. That is what people are arguing about. But the reality is this. We cannot argue about that because it is, we just want to satisfy our own emotions, our own way of feeling good and getting it right most of the time. But the reality is this. Marriage is the foundation of what we see even today. Marriage reveals unity, reveals peace, reveals the will of God. Out of marriage, family is built. And that is why we have the structure of how God wants marriage to be. Because now marriage began with God. And then God introduced man into it. And then the woman became a part of it. And then out of the woman came out a family. And from a family came out a church, a government, and a nation. Basically, a nation and then a government. So anytime there's an issue with the government always complains to the nation. And the nation goes to the family, to the church. And the church goes to the family. And the family goes to the woman. And the woman goes to the man. And when the man tries to go to God, God always tells him, you know what? I gave you all strength and all wisdom to deal with this. So it's upon us to understand these realities so that we can be able now to engage ourselves with what is productive and what is intentional and what is true. Because marriage is not a casual agreement. It is not just done by papers how governments do it. It is not about just signing a piece of paper. It is about, revealing the condition of one's heart, committing to what your heart is really trying to present to the people. So in the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 4 to 5, the Bible tells us, love endures with patience and serenity. It is not selfish. It does not keep a record of wrongs. So when it comes to infidelity, the Bible tells us about so many things, what we should do and what we cannot do. When you find out that your woman has slept out, your husband has slept out, the Bible encourages that in this very moment you can, dissolve that marriage. But again, the love of God sees far and beyond. The love of God sees far and beyond. So as humanity, I know we can come to a place whereby we don't want to do things the way they're supposed to be done because of our own selfish desires. We don't want to forgive. We don't want to let go. But I want to urge you, my dear brothers, whatever you're going through in your relationship, sometimes forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. That is a terminology we love using as humans. But what does God say about this? Because God hates divorce and God does not want people to come together and then they leave. I read somewhere and someone said, divorce is worse than death. For death, you're going to see your loved one getting buried and you see them gone forever. But when it comes to divorce, this is one person at some point you're going to be meeting with them on the road. And it's going to break your heart. It's going to make you feel like, what did I do? But my dear brothers and sisters, I want to make it clear to you that the love of God is far and beyond. It extends to the corners of the earth. And it's upon you to take the initiative to understand this. So when we talk about understanding the concept of marriage based on the will of God, it's all about committing to what God intended from beginning. Marriage is not a casual event. Marriage is not just a place for romance and sex, as much as sex is important. And I think I should talk about sex even in this, because there are so many people who are suffering in marriage. You're a husband, you're not receiving your conjugal rights. You're a wife, your man is not even intentional to touch you and to engage you into what is productive because of selfishness in that relationship, in that institution. Marriage is a commitment. You commit to be in your husband, to be with your husband, to walk with your husband, and to do what you have to do as a woman. And as a man, you be with your wife, you commit to that woman, you love on her, you treasure her, you engage her, you allow her to have a space whereby now she can say for sure, I am married. But it is quite the opposite based on what is happening in our society right now. Laws are being made concerning this institution. And the laws that we try to follow at some point, they are going to mess us because it is all about what humanity desires to satisfy. But what is the will of God concerning these? That is the question I think it's important for us to ask. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 25. Husbands, love your wives, seek the highest good for her, and surround her with a caring and selfish love, just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself up for her. That is the love that comes out of a commitment. God himself allows Christ to come and die for us. He chooses to bring and allows Christ to be a part of us. It is all love. My dear brothers and sisters, strong marriages are not built by perfect people. Strong marriages are built by people who learn endurance, wisdom, and grace. So in the book of Proverbs chapter 24 and verse 3, through skillful and godly wisdom, a house, a life, a home, a family is built. And by understanding it, it is established on a sound and a good foundation. So marriage is sustained by wisdom more than passion. Passion may start a fire, wisdom keeps the house from burning down. So as the husband loves the woman, what does the woman need to do? The woman needs to submit and commit. Does it mean that she doesn't know how to love? She knows how to love. It is just that God desired that the man will love the woman, because for men it becomes challenging to love the woman. And it is also the same thing for women. It has become challenging for them to submit. So God wants you to submit as a woman because you find it difficult. And that is where the grace of God becomes sufficient, even for us as men. How difficult it is for us to love our women, that is where the grace of God becomes sufficient. That we can now be able to do it without fighting one another. Marriage is not a casual agreement. Marriage is not a casual event. Take responsibility.